everyone. It's not a live, pre-recorded look at your astrology for August 14th through 20th, 2023. So I'm trying to record this before I leave for vacation. That's why we're recording this. And that's the thing about Leo season, which we're in Leo season right now, is that it's a reminder for us to sort of replenish ourselves and to do the things that we love, because it's the fuel for the rest of the year. It's not a coincidence that this is the time of the year that we have holidays or go on vacation. So anyway, here we are. And if you're watching the recording, say hello, even if we're not live. So for those that don't know who I am, my name is Katie Sweetman, and I'm an astrologer and psychic medium located here in the New York City area. And typically every week we gather live to look at the astrology. This is just a little bit of a sneak peek. We actually have a lot to talk about, although I might need to truncate it into a little bit of a shorter period of time because, time is real and I got a flight to catch. But anyway, so yeah, we have a Leo new moon on August 16th. It is a powerful Leo new moon, and it's a Leo new moon that really invokes a story that has been with us over the last 4 or 5 years, which we'll get into. But yeah, we typically do this live every week, and you can still say hello, but what I say every week is that the astrology is 50% and you are the other 50%. So what do we do when we have really big astrology? So maybe this is the energy that we need to reinvent something, to do things differently, to break out of an old past pattern. That part is on you, but the way I can describe it is that this is an evolutionary energy this week through the sign of Leo, and by extension through the sign of Taurus, which we'll get into. And something about our lives wants to shift, but if anything shifts, we have to sort of see it as part of the story that we keep kind of unfolding the next page or next chapter since 2018 and 2019. So yeah, I'm on vacation. I'm picking up with client sessions when I get back. So maybe you are thinking about booking with me. You can book after the 23rd of August. So yeah, let's just jump right in. So the headline of this week, of course, is the Leo new moon, but we also have the sun. This is why the Leo new moon is so powerful, is that the day before, the sun in Leo makes a square to Uranus and Taurus. So just a quick recap for those that have never heard of Uranus and Taurus, or are thinking, I'm not a Taurus. This is your reminder that you are all 12 signs. All 12 signs of the zodiac are sort of stand-ins for different facets of your life. It just so happens that you may be a Gemini, or you may be a Scorpio, or you may be a Libra, for example. So Taurus is someplace in your astrology. Leo is someplace in your astrology. These are two signs. They're called fixed signs. And the fixed signs really talk about the stability and security that our life and our world needs in order for life to thrive. So Taurus reminds us that if you want life to thrive, things need to be stable. Things need to be secure. We need a roof over our head. We need money, resources, food. We need to make sure that those things are always there. There's no wild ups and downs, for example. Or if you plant a seed and you want to make sure it's the perfect conditions, that it's not going to be some place where the water's just going to wash all the seeds away, for example. Leo is also a fixed sign. It's the sign of the sun. It talks about the passion, the joy, and the creativity of life, but also this sort of generative and regenerative force that is necessary for life to flow. You can imagine what happens when there's no life, there's no passion, there's no joy. Life cannot thrive, for example. So that said, we have this Leo new moon on Wednesday, August 16th. And it invokes Uranus. And I know some of you already know the story, but I'm just saying this for those that don't. Uranus has been in Taurus, meaning the planet Uranus looked as if it went into the zodiac sign of Taurus. That's a whole other explanation. In May of 2018 and March of 2019. Those two dates, because Uranus went in, it went out. In November of 2018, it went back in. In March of 2019. So if you are a Taurus, a Leo, a Scorpio, or an Aquarius, sort of the axis of your life began to shift and move. And even if you're not, it's quite possible that your life looks nothing like it did 4 or 5 years ago. Because all this really intense energy has been happening in the fixed signs, especially in 2020, 2021, 2022, where it really became concentrated. And look at what happened. And our lives began to look nothing like they did in 2018 and 2019, for example. So here we are, we're at a different part of the story, but something is still unfolding for us, trying to awaken. And I say awaken because Uranus is the planet of awakenings. It's an evolutionary planet, meaning it's discovered in modern times, 1780s modern times. And it sort of is outside the boundaries of classical astrology because we could not see Uranus. We needed a telescope to see Uranus. Under certain conditions, you can see Uranus, but that's a whole other story. But it represents an opening into, let's say, a time in humanity where we have to grow and evolve. Uranus, awakenings, revolutions, transformations, sort of sense of radical authenticity with Uranus. And of that sort of, we get into the 1800s, we have discovery of Neptune, discovery of Pluto in the 1900s, but Uranus' job is to get us to grow and evolve by any means possible, and to do it by awakening us, opening up our eyes, making our world bigger, getting us to see things that maybe we haven't been seeing before. All that energy since 2018, 2019 has been concentrated on the sign of Taurus. Taurus, money, stability, security, property, resources, value, worth, whether there's the tangibility of those things or the intangibility, meaning it's the sort of an internal relationship with those things. Do you feel safe? Do you feel secure? We're doing laundry right now, so that's what that little beep is. So that part of our lives began to shift and to move. And when I go through each of the 12 signs, I'll sort of concentrate on where has this energy been unfolding since 2018, 2019. But then this Leo new moon comes along. Here we are, 4 or 5 years past since 2018, 2019. And the Leo new moon this week is exactly square Uranus at 23 degrees. We got 2-3 more years of Uranus and Taurus. But here we are, we're at another chapter. Because it's a Leo new moon, if we sort of take Uranus off the table for a moment and just look at it through the perspective of a Leo new moon, this is a part of the lunar calendar, a part of our personal season where we need to really get back to the things that light us up, give us joy, give us pleasure, make life worth living, help us to individuate, not the individuation of, again, doing laundry, not the individuation of Aries, which is what's called the first fire sign, but Leo, second fire sign. It's the things, the passion, the light, that sense of spirit that makes us us. We can be very burnt out. We could feel very low on spirit. And it's really important to get back to that. So each and every one of us will live the next 4 weeks, because that's the duration of a lunar month, differently based on our own relationship with the archetype of Leo, even if you're not a Leo. And Leo might be your career sign. In addition, it might be your relationship sign. It might be your sign of joy and creativity. But regardless, how do you get back to the things that light you up, give you passion, give you joy, and make it so that you want your life to sort of have your spirit and to animate everything that you do, whether it's your career, whether it's your relationships, for example. So maybe it's a little bit of an esoteric look at Leo. I think Leo isn't always given its fair due. I think sort of pop culture gives it this it's all personality and diva, and it's a little self-centered, and I don't think that's completely fair. Of course, that is an expression of Leo. I think it's a delightful sign, and I think at the end of the day, Leo is the sign of the sun, and you have the sun someplace in your astrology. It's called a sun sign. And so this talks about self and how we live who we are, whether we are a Leo, or whether we are a Scorpio, whether we are a Taurus, through the lens of that sign. Anyway, so this could be a week and opening into the next 4 weeks where something has to shift and change. I say something has to because Uranus, we can't really negotiate with it. It's like a wave, it's a force, it's an energy. we can let it knock us over. We can use it to the best of our advantage. We need to break out of something. For some people, it's a relationship, a toxic relationship. We need to break out of ourselves. We have a toxic relationship with ourselves. So you have to sort of see, number one, what's coming up for you this week and to next week and beyond. Two, how, and especially when we go through each of the 12 signs, how this really has shown up over the last 4 or 5 years, because Taurus is a key part of your personal astrology. Again, even if you're not a Taurus. So Sun square Uranus this week, Leo new moon, these are our big headliners. And, there are a couple other aspects like Mars trine Uranus and, Venus trine Chiron, but that's pretty much it. I feel like we got a lot to go into. So let's just sort of jump into the week and we look at the astrology of August 14th through 20th, 2023. So as I mentioned, Venus trines Chiron on August 14th. And so Venus has been retrograde in Leo, and I kind of point you back to my previous recording about what Venus retrograde is and sort of the importance of Venus and what the work that we are doing while Venus is retrograde and Leo. But Venus trine Chiron, a trine just means we have support, there's an opportunity, there may be an open door, something may be a little bit more easier, we have a vision for something, but it's not always concrete. Trines are not concrete, for example. The energy of inspiration, for example. We may feel inspired, there may be an opportunity to heal an old relationship, undo a knot, open up space, let something that may need some healing to heal, for example. Then we get into the 15th, Sun square Uranus. So the sun is at 23 degrees, and this, at least for Eastern Standard Time, Eastern Daylight Time, sorry, the sun is making that square late in the day. I think it's like 10 in the evening, because on the next day, the 16th, the new moon is like at 5 something in the morning Eastern time, for example. So it's like the sun squares Uranus on the 15th, and then right after that, we have the Leo new moon on the 16th. As you know, I said in the introduction, it's a pretty powerful energy. Uranus, it needs to transform, reform, awaken, and it's like an energy that's going to make its way through our lives. And what I've noticed about Uranus is that it demands radical authenticity. If you are in something in your life that isn't you, it could be a career, it could be a marriage. We've all had these moments where we wake up one day, we're like, how did I get here? Who is this? This is not who I am. And Uranus can embolden us to make a break from something. Or sometimes the external world shows us that something is not a fit for us, and it's trying to get us to notice that. The example that I often use, and it's not that I have a 20-year background in IT, it's not that didn't fit me, but it's not who I am, and it's not what I came here to do. It was a means to an end, and there came this point where I had to make the leap and to do this full time. That was Uranus working its way through my life, but I have a very prominent Uranus in my astrology. But each and every one of you are going to live this energy differently, and it's sort of trying to wake up and shake up your life. Then we get into the 16th. As I mentioned, we have the Leo new moon. New moon happens every month, every 4 weeks. So it sort of turns the page, opens a chapter, sort of gives us a reset for the lens in which we are living life through. It's a little bit of a late in the season Leo new moon. This Leo energy is going to carry us even into Virgo season. But I actually really love the interplay between Leo and Virgo, because we need that spark, we need that spirit, we need that passion to put it into something that sort of, runs our lives. Virgo is the small systems that run our lives. It's like the things that I have to do day to day. How do I take care of my body? How do I go to work? How do I all the things I need to do? But if there's no Leo energy, you're going to run into the ground very quickly. So that said, that Leo new moon exactly square Uranus, and so a seed is planted, but then again, the seed has been with us since 2018 and 2019. And Leo's a very bold energy. It's the energy of the sun, fire. It wants to be seen, even if, we're shy. Like, how do we share something, share our heart, share our passion, even if it's in a quiet way, because we don't have to stand on a stage to do Leo. And I think that's a little bit of the, sometimes when we get a little stuck with how we think about that sign, is that we think we have to be larger than life, we need to be seen, we need to have our names and lights. No, that's just one way in which Leo can do Leo, but it's like whatever is inside of you needs to be, I'm doing this with my hands, and it's coming from my heart, of course. It's like it needs to live outside of us. It needs to emanate from us. It needs to broadcast, transmit from us, because God forbid, I'm being a Scorpio for a moment, God forbid, one day your life's going to end. And then, what have you made? What have you created? How does your spirit live on in everything that you've done in this life? And that's sort of the legacy, Scorpio, it goes Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, that lives on after you. Also on the same day as the new moon, we do have Mars and Virgo making a trine to Uranus. So Mars and Uranus, Mars typically does not, in aspect to Uranus, it does not ask questions. It just does it. It's fast. It's quick. Sometimes Mars-Uranus aspects, and I'm just sort of saying this to, be a little bit of a traditional astrologer for a moment, can be a little accident prone because we are rushing. Maybe the fact that Mars is in Virgo, and Virgo typically is a sign that doesn't rush. It wants to plan. It wants to make sure everything is done in the right way. But this is another push that is seated in this Leo new moon. So that's sort of your big highlights for this week. Let's just sort of jump in and do each of the 12 zodiac signs in this pre-recorded look at the astrology of August 14th through 20th, 2023, geez. Starting with Aries. I almost said Leo. Aries. So Aries, we talked about this last week. Just a quick recap. Uranus has been in your money sign since 2018 and 2019, and that can literally be a 4 or 5 year story about money and income, or something that's getting into more the heart of material stability and material security and what you value and what you're worth, for example, and how that has needed to change, for example. Leo for you is your sign of passion, joy, creativity, and how does this new moon really launch you or release you or break you free from something that was never you to begin with or is too small for you? And all this work of value and worth, and maybe at the Leo new moon, you're really thinking like, am I of value? Am I of worth? Like, what is the value of my talents, gifts, and abilities? But it's a pretty fiery energy for you, and with your Mars trine Uranus, Mars is in Virgo, you're maybe going to feel a lot of motivation, inspiration to make something real, and maybe to take that creative fire of Leo or the vision of Leo and to put it into something. So maybe you are inspired, maybe you're drawing out a business plan, maybe you're trying to come up with really actionable steps about how to make something, but there might be a bigger story that's coming up that has been with you since 2018 and 2019. Taurus. Taurus. So we've talked about this last week. It's been a really bit of a wild ride over the last 4 or 5 years. And I think, maybe I say this periodically, take stock of who you were, the life that you were living at the start of 2018. What has changed? Has anything changed? Maybe the change is not external, it's internal. Every Taurus is going to live this differently, and sort of my best advice is not to resist it. If something has to change, but Taurus's MO is not to change things, give it an outlet, even if it's baby steps, because it's like something, this energy is trying to push through you and push through the different spaces in your life, so to speak. Venus is retrograde, so this still continues to be this time to reevaluate, to get into these bigger questions about home and family and past, and sort of, am I safe? Do I have enough? And really sort of anchoring yourself into your life. But this Leo new moon, with the energy that it's activating, can mean there's changes in your home environment, changes in your household that take you into September. Sort of the classic way of looking at a new moon is that, it sort of opens up a new page in the home environment. Somebody moves in, somebody moves out. It's a time where the home environment needs a lot of attention. Maybe your family, or even if your parents are older, they may need more attention and help and aid, for example. With the square to Uranus, maybe it's a break from the past, something that has been holding you back. It could be something about a relationship. Mars as a relationship planet is making the square to Uranus. And so we want to break out of something that has really, let's say, defined how you connect, interact, and socialize with people. It could get into past memories, mom and dad, all the sort of emotional baggage that we have as human beings. But this is something that's really hitting on the axis of your life. All Leos are going to live this differently. If it's your birthday, if the birthday is the 15th, 16th, or 17th, it is a powerful new year for you to reinvent yourself, to make a break, to sort of reorient the axis of your life. Gemini. So Mercury is your planet. It continues to be in Virgo. And so for you, Virgo is your sign of home and family. It's gotta make sure I'm doing that right. Home and family, and Mercury will be in Virgo. And I'm just like, since I'm here, I'm just gonna look it up. Mercury will be in Virgo all the way until the 27th of August. So that's a long time. That's 2 months. Typically, Mercury can breeze through a sign in 2 weeks, for example. But this is your time to really get back to the things that matter. For example, you're so used to working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. You're tired, and Mercury is trying to bring you back home. Don't forget your foundation. Don't forget the things that support your life, that fill you up, because if it's all about work and career, mind you, Saturn's in your career sign, something may become imbalanced, for example. That said, Leo new moon, especially with the energies of Uranus, it's getting into themes around communication, voice, how you think and listen and learn. And maybe Uranus is trying to show you something in your blind spots. Like, oh no, I always say this, I always communicate this way, everything's fine. I'm like, actually, Uranus is saying, have you looked at it this way? So something may shake up around information, ideas, how you communicate, education, how you think and listen and learn, travel, that's trying to get you to see something that you don't typically see. And I think I said this last week, sort of to look at all of this within the context of the bigger existential questions and spiritual exploration and the search for truth and meaning that has really defined your sign since, 2018, 2019, yes, but really 2020, 2021, and 2022. It continues, but Saturn has sort of moved out of your ninth. 2020 through 2023 was really getting into some bigger, what do you believe in? What do you stand for? Make some choices, orient your sense of right and wrong in the world. Find your path, for example. But you may need to look at something that you don't typically have looked at so far. Cancer. So Cancer, this Leo new moon is in your second sign of money and income. So this is your time every year, whether it's this later in Leo season or earlier in Leo season, where you need to sort of get back to your material life. Now, at the end of the day, we are physical beings. Of course, we're spiritual beings as well, but our physical life is the support for our spiritual life. So we need to make sure that we have enough. That we can make sure that we can take care of ourselves, that we feel rooted, stable, grounded, and secure. It's I sort of use this in the introduction as an analogy. You plant the seed where it's going to thrive. If you are someplace right now where the seeds, or even yourself as a seed, you're not thriving, how do you make a change? That part, to whatever degree, what part can you actually make a change about that? For some, it's very simple. This is a 4-week period to look at spending, to think about income, increase income, make changes in how you spend, get into these bigger questions about value and worth. maybe to make big purchases, although the conventional wisdom is that when Venus is retrograde until the beginning of September, you're not making huge investments, but you do you. Maybe it's the purchase of property, or sort of thinking about the things that you actually need, on a physical level to feel safe and secure. You're, buying goods and resources for your home, for example. But all this is playing off of Uranus in your 11th sign. And 11th sign is about the future. It's like our hopes and dreams and wishes. It's like, what do we want? What do we want to bring into our lives, even if it's not here right now? If you want these bigger things in your life, how does the sort of structure and framework of your life need to change in order for that to happen? Kind of going back to that earlier comment is like, if you were planted someplace where you are not thriving, then how do you make the change that you have the ability to make? Because sometimes there are just things that are just a little bit out of our control, in order for the future wants and needs and desires and hopes and wishes to be able to come in to your life. Uranus has also been shaking up your sense of social issues, social causes, your awareness of the world. The 11th wants to make our world bigger, although it makes our world bigger by making us aware of friends and community and sort of how we are connected to the greater whole. But this is a time where it is about really looking at some of the structural points of your life, and maybe over the next 4 weeks and beyond, having to make some big changes. Leo. Wait, that's right. Leo. Happy birthday, Leo. I think I was saying this, I can't remember which sign, but whatever. Leo, happy birthday, Leo. If your birthday is the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, it is a big new year for you, especially if your birthday is right on that new moon. How do you use this energy? How do you use this to really make a big change in your life, to really be open to the highest and greatest potential? Because there are some Leos that are doing great. Their lives have gotten bigger. There are some Leos that are really stuck in a rut. Everybody's going to live this energy differently. So that said, the big news is that you have a Leo new moon in your sign. And mind you, every year there is a Leo new moon in your sign. It just so happens that it falls on the 16th of August this year, and it just so happens to be exactly square Uranus. Uranus has been in your career sign since May 2018 and March of 2019. Again, every Leo has lived this differently, but there have been the Leos that have made 180s in their career. They are not in the same industry that they were 2018, 2019. They're the Leos that have had major career breakouts, breakthroughs. Their career has gotten bigger. I can kind of list some celebrities that Leo celebrities have sort of, their careers have gotten massive over the past few years, or even Leo rising. I can also think of somebody else. Or it's a time to reevaluate the direction that you're taking your life in. Venus is retrograde. Venus is your career planet. That sense of like you and your career, you Leo, career Taurus, those two signs are like the axis, like your hand on the steering wheel signs. Like this is what I want. This is the power. This is the drive that I'm putting into my life. You, Leo. Taurus, career sign, but it's like, where am I steering my life towards? What are the duties and responsibilities that I carry in order to get there? Yes, it's career, but it's sort of ambition, like sort of this far off point that you're steering your life towards. But you may need to reevaluate that with Venus retrograde, because maybe the point you've been steering your life towards is not in alignment with something. Of course, you have to see what's right for you. But this is a powerful Leo new moon. Use it to your advantage to really invent whatever needs reinventing. Virgo, Mercury is your planet, and it's gonna stay in Virgo until the 27th of August. It's a like 2-month period if I'm remembering my astrology. But this is sort of Mercury starting to slow down. It is going to turn retrograde, I guess, at the end of next week. I have to look at a calendar. But this is a time where you have your ruler, Mercury, in your sign. So there's a sense of power, being able to sort of go after what you want, to take action. I think that there's some complications around that statement because Mercury is opposite Saturn, Neptune. Mercury will turn retrograde again, so Mercury is slowing down. So I think that you have to do a little bit of a dance with something as you're going into September. You go into your birthday season. It's a need to recalibrate, to start your personal year off maybe on a different foot. It's to sort of take the notes that Saturn gave you 2 weeks ago when we had the Mercury-Saturn opposition at the beginning of August, and recalibrate, whether it's recalibrating relationships, recalibrating your sense of duties and responsibilities, things that you have to get done, work, because Mercury is also a career planet for you, and making sure that sort of the bigger structural points of your life are in alignment, not just with yourself, but with especially with Neptune sort of in the mix, that your life is in alignment with your spirit. Not necessarily the spirit that I was talking about with Leo, but something that's bigger than you. It's something that expresses itself through you. And that part of you that knows at the end of your life, this is just a loner. And so how do you make sure that you're taking really good care of your life, that it's exactly in integrity with your soul, your path? I'm saying some big things, but Neptune is one of those planets that gets into bigger questions about who we are and who we are beyond this world. Libra. So your planet's still retrograde, so it's to really honor that this has been a 40-day period in total when you get to the beginning of September 3rd, of reevaluating something. It just so happens, and I spoke about this last week, that the reevaluation process is focused on friends, community. You are reevaluating friendships, or maybe having to do some bigger question marks about the role of friends and community in your life. Is that something that needs more of you in it? Have you taken for granted the role of friends and community in your life? Because friends and community, as your 11th sign, is one of the structural pillars of your life. It's sort of really like, we need friends, we need community, we can't isolate. For example, another way of looking at this time is to really reevaluate how you're connected to the greater whole. The 11th gets into society, humanity. What's your relationship with humanity? Are you a little bit of a misanthrope, for example? Of course not, Libra. Do you need to become more active in the world, get involved in a cause that your heart is in, really feel like you're building for your future, for example? But this is, again, it's a reevaluation process. Then there's the Uranus square, and then there's, of course, the Leo new moon. But, with Uranus, and I talked about this last week, in your 8th, it's been in the 8th since 2018, 2019. It'll be in your 8th until 2025, 2026. You've had to really do some deeper work on yourselves. The 8th is where we have to face ourselves. And even if you're thinking, but it's about this other person, it's about this friend in my life, and but what's creating that? What is fueling how you connect to people, and maybe some of the not so helpful ways in which you're connecting with people? The 8th is where we see the shadow parts of ourselves that we don't want to always recognize. And Uranus is trying to wake us up to what is in our unconscious, what is the parts of us that are driving our life that we have no clue that are actually driving our life. So there could be this dynamic that's happening about you and friendships, community, sort of the deeper emotions, power, intimacy, vulnerability, trust that's coming up between you and your friends, your community, but also looking into these bigger questions about value and worth in the future, for example. And this Leo new moon is your time to really vision towards the future and what you want to bring into reality in your life, and also to revitalize your relationship with your friends and your community. Scorpio Scorpio. So Mars is your planet. It continues to be in Virgo. It's making a pretty spicy trine to Uranus this week. And Virgo is your sign of friends and community. And then you have Uranus in your relationship sign. So it's been a shakeup for relationships and connection over the last, 4 or 5 years with Uranus and Taurus. So Leo for you is actually a career sign. So there's this big dynamic energy that's happening between your career or the role that you play in the world, sort of your larger duties and responsibilities, and sort of your connection to other people. This is a dynamic new moon in your life, and there may be pivot points for you around the new moon on the 16th or in the coming days and weeks during the duration of the lunar month. It's powerful, but whatever changes, whatever shakes up is part of this bigger story that has been with you since 2018, 2019, and it's been a big time because you've had the Uranus opposition for Scorpio, for example. Sagittarius, Jupiter is your planet. Like I said, it's going to be there till May of 2024. So continue to focus on your health and wellness. Get your day-to-day life organized. Come up with a plan. Clean things out. Reevaluate your health and wellness. Sort of grow this part of your life so it's flourishing, like positive health, positive wellness, for example. And that's a space, your Jupiter is in the same sign as Uranus, that you've been making big changes since 2018, 2019, whether you realize it or not. Maybe it's a need to make a radical change in your diet. You're allergic to something, or something is just not really supportive of health and wellness, or maybe you need to try a different fitness routine. Maybe you just need to get out of the house more often and stop working so hard. But there is these bigger questions about value and worth while Jupiter is in Taurus. Then there's the Leo new moon, and Leo's a fire sign, just like you, Sagittarius. And so this gets into the heart of something that's really about the Sagittarius sign, which is the need for exploration, a need to look out into the world and to really open up our world and grow our world externally, meaning we get on a plane, we go to another country, we go see other cultures, we look at other religions or different philosophies, or we really focus on our education. But this is a worldly time for Sagittarius, but it's a pretty dynamic new moon that sort of looks at the sort of intersection between sort of how you structure your life and what do you believe in, and sort of what you think is right and wrong, and sort of the inner compass that I think we all have to have regardless of our sign. And so this might be a time when you have to really stand up for something, or maybe even stand up for yourself, or share or teach what you know and sort of the wisdom and knowledge about the world that you've cultivated. But it may be getting into some deeper existential questions, for example. Capricorn, Saturn's your planet. It's there until 2026, so we got time. But just remember, the more that you work on and invest and take seriously your voice, your education, the choices that you're making, showing up on time, really living in the maturity of the choices that you're making, the more that Saturn's happy. Just make Saturn happy. Even though Saturn's your ruler, life is easier when you make Saturn happy. That said, Leo season, then this really powerful Leo new moon gets into, let's say, sometimes our self-destructive tendencies. Leo new moon's in your 8th. The 8th is the sign, or the 8th is the place where we have to face ourselves. It's the deepest parts of our emotional body. And with Uranus in the 5th is how we express who we are, our identity, our sense of identity. And sometimes how that identity is shaped by our unconscious. Like, we don't even realize that, like, our identity is maybe how we were imprinted in childhood, or our family expectation for who we should be versus who we really are. That said, look at any self-destructive tendencies. Look at how you self-sabotage. Look at how it might be a little bit hard look in the mirror, but it's the work that we all have to do. How you need to make some changes and how you express who you are, or removing anything that's in the way of letting your light shine, for example. Goodness gracious. Aquarius. Aquarius. So this is a powerful Leo new moon for you because Leo is your relationship sign. And this sort of really falls across the axis of your life. And I think that, with Uranus and Taurus and look at the changes in your home environment, in your household, or your living situation, or your sense of home, family, or your internal sense of home and family, that has been changing, evolving, and transforming since 2018, 2019. This is like whether it's the Uranus and Taurus, which is one part of the axis of your life. Leo is another part of the axis of your life. So this could be an axis shift over the next 4 weeks. Maybe it's a sense of like needing to see things differently. Maybe people are coming into your life where they are trying to get you to see things differently. And this is putting the spotlight on all relationships, but if you are in a relationship right now that needs work, this is just my little friendly reminder as an astrologer that this new moon may bring something up in a relationship. Or it could be the start of a relationship, or people are trying to come into your life because this is the new moon that happens 6 months after your birthday that's really putting the focus on relationships, for example. But this is a big one. I think it's continuing this sort of wave of evolution and transformation that's been with you over the last few years. Finally, Pisces. So Jupiter as your planet continues to be in your third sign of voice and communication. So the more that you sort of open up your eyes to the world around you, spending time in your community, your neighborhood, to move your body, to speak, to listen, to take more classes. There's a sort of restless curiosity with Jupiter in this part of your chart right now. With the square to this Leo new moon, for you, Pisces, Leo is your it's your sixth sign of health and wellness. And so this is really getting into the nitty-gritty of like your life, like how your life sort of runs and flows, and maybe a need to create a new schedule, maybe a new organization, or to make positive and healthy changes with health and wellness. But this could be this time that's really awakening you to something, maybe something that you haven't seen, or maybe your ability to speak, listen, and communicate differently. I think this is pulling at some of these deeper questions about your intuition and how you trust your intuition, how you trust your choices. But this is to look at your ability to discern, to make choices, to listen, to communicate. This is very much about the mental processes and the systems that run your life, and maybe needing to make a change. What's an example of a system? The food that you eat, you sort of make preparations, or you go out all the time, and maybe that's not working for you. You need to change the system. Or the sort of the day-to-day sort of schedule that your life runs on. It's actually taking away from you. It's not lighting you up. And starting to remove the things from your life that actually pull from your life instead of give you life. And maybe that's where Leo does its best work. It wants to give us life. So this is not the dynamic new moon that it's like for other signs, although the question mark, because Jupiter is your planet, it's in the mix. What wants to pivot and change over the next 4 weeks? So that's your pre-recorded look at the astrology of August 14th through 20th. I kind of breeze through things, gotta get a flight. So until next week when we do this live on the 21st, have a wonderful week, and I will see you when I get back from vacation. Bye-bye.